Hey, I want to thank you guys for coming back week after week, month after month. I know that this episode is a little bit late coming out to you, and many of you may know why. I was in India last month. I had asked you guys to pray for that, and it was an incredible trip. The Lord absolutely blessed it. We were able to visit 6 different cities. We got to dedicate 3 brand new Hope homes that are taking care of, oh my goodness, about 150 children between the 3 of them. And we also got to conduct VBS's Vacation Bible Schools for about 350 at-risk orphan and abandoned children that have been brought into Hope Homes by Hope Givers. So between all of that, I had a technical issue on an episode. Just got it out a little bit late. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you for praying. If you want more details about my the mission trip we were on, I encourage you just subscribe to my Thanks for Thursday email. I'll let you know more about it. That you can just do that by texting the word things, THINGS, to 66866. That's things to 66866. And then don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so that once a month as they come out this year, you'll get the episodes. Today, I have a really powerful topic that I want to talk to you about. I don't have an interview because I have something that's been on my heart that I think is really helpful for every believer. And that is the power of pre-deciding. This is actually something that's really helpful for every human, but I'm talking specifically for those of us who are followers of Jesus. Recently, I've been thinking about the book of Daniel, and there's a little episode in the book of Daniel. It's actually one of the major stories. It's one of the ones that you know from childhood if you grew up in Sunday school. If you're my age, you know this from the flannel graphs, and maybe your Sunday school teacher let you be a part of showing it on the flannel graph. But in the larger story of Daniel and the lion's den, we learn in Daniel 6 that Daniel had grown in power and prestige in his position. At this point, he had survived. I think he's on his 4th king and 2nd or 3rd empire. He's with Darius the Mede at this point. And the other advisors were jealous of him, but they couldn't figure out anything to accuse him of except something in the realms of his devotion to God. And so they went to Darius and manipulated him to create a new law that says that you can't pray to anybody for these next 30 days except the king. And Darius stupidly signed it into law. The penalty was if you pray to anybody else, then you're going to be thrown in the lion's den. So in Daniel chapter 6, verse 10, this is what we read. It says, "Now when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened towards Jerusalem. 3 times a day, he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to God, just as he had done before." You know, it's crazy. In a moment of life and death decision making, Daniel didn't flinch. He had already pre-decided that he was a man of prayer, that his prayers were going to be regular, habitual, and unashamed. And so Daniel's pre-decision got him thrown into the lion's den. But Daniel's pre-decision meant that it didn't matter what new thing was thrown at him. He was going to continue in consistency and faith in following the Lord. So in the short term, his pre-decision got him thrown into the lion's den, but it also meant that he didn't agonize over what to do. And we know the story because Daniel escaped the lion's den because God shut the mouths of the lions. So that same pre-decision cost Daniel on the front end, but in the long term gives us one of the greatest stories in the Bible, one of the greatest pieces of inspiration for faith that we've ever heard. You know, I was thinking about decisions. I was thinking about all of the choices that we have to make. And the truth is, we have to make a lot of choices. You actually probably have to make more choices in a day than you're even aware of. According to articles in the Harvard Business Review, as well as in Roberts Wesleyan University, the average adult makes 35,000 decisions a day. 35,000 decisions. So that seems absolutely absurd to me. But I mean, as I was reading the articles and realized how many times my brain was checking in, checking out, there was a distraction coming. I had to decide in the moment how to re-engage. Realize, man, I'm actually making a lot more decisions than I even think in a day. So we have to make a lot of choices. And truthfully, we've been given free will to decide so many things in our life: what to eat, what to wear, what to purchase, what we believe, what jobs or careers we will pursue, how we vote, who we spend our time with, who we will date and marry, who our children will spend their time with, what they will eat, and on and on and on. It's a staggering number of decisions that we have to make. And something that we often don't think about is the fact that our choices compound. Our choices, these individual daily choices that we make, start to compound as we make them day after day after day. Let me give you a few examples. Eating. So there's about 3,500 calories in 1 pound of fat in your body. So what that means is if you eat at just a 100 calorie a day deficit over the course of a year, you'll drop 10 pounds. Isn't that crazy? So we a lot of times think about dieting and think about exercise and how difficult and hard it is. But if you could just simply have a 100 calorie deficit per day, you'll drop 10 pounds a year. So basically, like for instance, if you drink a soda a day or a sweet tea a day, if you cut out one of those, however many you drink, if you cut out one of those a day from what you currently do, that's over 100 calories. That alone, you would drop 10 pounds in a year. But on the other hand, eating an average of just 100 extra calories a day, which is, again, a mindful soda or 3 Oreos or an extra handful of chips, eating an overage of 100 calories a day over the course of a year, you'll add 10 pounds of fat to your body. And as we continue to age and our metabolism slows down, it's easier and easier to add that. But it's all these tiny choices that compound. There's not a single day where you add a pound of fat to your body, but these little choices add up. Another compounding one that I was thinking of, subscription fees. Currently, as I looked up the latest prices on these fees, for the monthly plans, ad-free monthly plans, Netflix, $15 a month, Apple TV, $7, Hulu, $18, Disney, $14, Amazon Prime, $12. So just those that I listed, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subscription services. None of them are that big, but if you take them all, that's $66 a month. And over the course of a year after taxes, that's over $800 a year for all of these little subscription services. The choices compound. But in the same way they can compound, for positive and negative. Let me give you a positive one. Quality time with your family. One intentional family dinner a week, one intentional family dinner night a week is 52 of them a year. And if you do this consistently over the life of your child, by the time they graduate, that's about 1,000 times around the dinner table intentionally that you have. And so again, that's if you do 1 a week. If you do 2 a week, you're up to 2,000 times around the table. And anything that you do 1,000, 2,000 times with your children, with your family, with intention is going to have a positive result. Here's one that is, I think, pretty negative right now. Social media, checking social media. So the typical user spends about 2.5 hours per day on social media, according to Data Reportal. 2.5 hours a day for an average social media user. That's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I don't know what else, Be Real. That's about 864 hours of scrolling, which is the equivalent of 36 days or a little over a month of your life every year if you're an average social media user. That's 36 days of your year just scrolling and checking social media. And truthfully, for most of us, it's not doing us any good. It's not increasing the quality of our life. It's raising our temptation level. It's lowering our satisfaction level. It's keeping us awake at night. So many negative health concepts. And if you're a student, if you're a child, those numbers are much higher and much more detrimental. So basically, like every spike in massive anxiety and depression that you see in our children over the last 10 to 12 years is directly related to the advance of the iPhone and the adaptation of social media and the like button. It's really crazy. Compound choices. Time with God, though, that's another good one to think about. Your choices compound with God. 15 minutes a day with the Lord intentionally adds up to just over 90 hours a year. So if you can do 15 minutes a day, I know it doesn't sound like much, but that's 90 hours of personal time you spend in a year with the Lord. 30 minutes a day is going to give you 180 hours with the Lord, and the Lord moves in your heart and changes you during that time. So we have a lot of choices to make. Choices compound, and truthfully, not all choices are equally important. What you wear, what you eat, what kind of exercise you do, what color you decide to repaint your kitchen, the accessories that you decide. We're in a bathroom remodel right now, and it feels like we're slaving over these stupid decisions that I know as soon as they're made, as soon as they're implemented, they're not going to change the quality of my life whatsoever. But they seem to take a lot of energy because not all choices are equally important, but some unimportant choices are disproportionately draining. If we're honest with ourselves, most of the choices that we really agonize over are things that we aren't going to care about in a day or a week or a year at most. Most of the choices that are causing me stress today, I won't care about tomorrow or next week, especially not next year. Now, some of them I will, but we just need to accept the reality that a lot of these choices that we are stressing over are truly unimportant, not only in the grand scheme of things, but in just the slightly more than right now scheme of things. And so what I want to do, thinking about the number of choices you have to make in a day, 35,000, how draining they can be, how willpower is a finite resource that you're given. And so the more time you spend on making choices on unimportant things, the less capacity you have to make good and wise and healthy choices on good things, on resisting temptation, on making the choices that are actually going to enhance your life. So I want to open your eyes to the power of pre-deciding and how that can help in your decision making. So pre-deciding is something you probably already do. I know you already do in many areas of your life. You may just not be aware of it. So you're reaping benefits from pre-deciding, even if you're not aware of it right now. Let me give you an example. So what if somebody were to walk up to you today and offer you a free shot of heroin and could guarantee that nobody would ever know? What would you do? Now, for some people who've had a history of addiction, this might genuinely be a struggle, might be a temptation, especially if you've, maybe had an issue with pain and opioids has been an issue. I know there's a lot of people like that, but for the majority of people, if somebody walked up to you and offered you any amount of heroin and promised that nobody would ever know, it's a no-brainer, right? Because for most of us, like, we've settled the issue. It's not worth destroying my life and my family and my health and probably ultimately dying from this for whatever that momentary high is, even if the first hit is the most extraordinary thing that you might have. In my life, it's the same for cigarettes, for vaping, for chewing tobacco, and eating mayonnaise. I don't have to make a decision on these things. I've already decided I'm not that kind of person. It's not because I think that people who do these things are worse people, but I know that each of these things that I just mentioned will damage my body and ultimately make me sick. And yes, I did include mayonnaise in there. I probably feel stronger about mayonnaise than I do about cigarettes, although both feel repulsive to me. You've probably pre-decided the same things. Maybe you still need to on mayonnaise, but some of these others probably you've already pre-decided. And so that's not a temptation that you have to deal with because you've decided what kind of person you are and the actions that that person would do. What I want to do today with the rest of our time, I want to share with you a handful of things that you can pre-decide. Now, some of what I share with you might sound like I'm creating a boring life for you. And I promise you I'm not. What I'm trying to do is take some decisions off the table because you've decided long-term what matters and what is important. And this will actually open you up for a much more free life and a much more fulfilling life. Some of these are going to seem spiritual. Some of them are not spiritual, but I think there's a spiritual tie-in. And I think that if you make these pre-decisions, the compound benefits that you'll get will more than make up for your loss of freedom and will actually be something that the Lord uses in an incredible way. So I'm going to give you just quickly 7 different things that you can pre-decide that I think will have compound massive interest in your life. And all of these are within your capacity, even though it might take you a little bit of time to work them out. First off, pre-decide when you're going to have time with God each day. Pre-decide when you're going to have time with God each day. So not just make a commitment that I'm going to have time with God, but decide when. So make it a time that you know you'll be able to consistently meet. Not that there won't be exception days, but when is a time that you'll be able to consistently make? And then you start making the small decisions that go along with it. So where is it going to be? What are you going to do during that time with God? Is it going to be prayer, a Bible reading? Are you going to journal? Are you going to listen to worship music? And then what also can you do to make this time the most special? Let me give you my example in this pre-decide when you're going to have time with God. For me, my pre-decision is my time with God is going to start 15 minutes after I wake up. It's going to be on my couch in my living room, and I want to dedicate 30 minutes to it. Sometimes I get more, but I want to dedicate 30 minutes to it. And in that 30 minutes, there's going to be a time of Bible reading. I have a 5-year journal that takes me about 2 or 3 minutes to journal through, and a time of prayer. I bought a fancy coffee machine. I excused it by doing the math, and I don't mean a Keurig. I mean like a fancy coffee machine. I excused it by counting up how much money I was spending on Keurig, and just put that into the coffee machine. And now my coffee only costs me 14 cents a cup to make, but it's foamy, it's delicious, and I have my delicious cup of coffee with my fancy coffee beans as I'm having my time with God in my favorite spot on my couch. And here's the other critical part of my pre-decision. It has to start and end before my children get up in the morning, because my children tend to be terrorists who want to hold hostage my time, want to sabotage whatever I'm doing in the morning. And I love my kids, but they're kind of self-centered when they wake up, just like I am. Because I'm self-centered when I wake up, I need to give myself time without other human beings. So my pre-decision, 15 minutes after I wake up in the morning, I want to start my time with God. I want to do it in a certain place. These are the things that I want to have involved. And it needs to be early enough to where I have that space before I have to interact with my children. So going along with that, the second thing you can pre-decide when you are going to go to bed and when you're going to wake up as a normal habit. Now, I suggest picking the wake up time first and then backtracking and picking your go to bed time. For myself, I need on a regular basis a minimum of a 7-hour sleep window. Doesn't mean that I'll actually sleep for 7 hours, but I need that window. And ideally 8 is a better window for me so that I can actually get closer to 7 hours. I can't make myself sleep, but I can give myself the opportunity to. And my bedtime is determined by the start time of my time with God. So start time of time with God is 15 minutes after I wake up. So that means I have to wake up at this certain time, which means I need to be in bed, ready to go to sleep at least 7 hours before that. Ideally 8, like I said. And so one of the things that I've realized is that means I have to determine when I put my phone down, when I put my iPad down, because that scrolling mindlessly robs me of 45 minutes of sleep sometimes. And also just the light in my face can make it harder to fall asleep. So the pre-deciding my bedtime and wake up time will also help me determine when do I turn off my phone, when do I do the other things to get ready. But by pre-deciding that, it's just much healthier if you have the ability to get up at the same time every day, to go to bed at the same time every day, but listen to your body and give yourself enough time in there. And I know that's harder, truthfully, as it's very hard if you have a newborn. And it's also much harder as your kids get to be older and preteens and teenagers, because their circadian rhythm changes, their sleep cycle changes. And so I've had to adjust mine a little bit based on that. I go to bed a little later than what I would ideally like, and I get up a little bit later than what I ideally like, but I still give myself time before my kids get up. That pre-decision is huge. Sleep is one of the best things you can do for stress, anxiety, physical well-being, health, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Number 3, pre-decide your default meals for breakfast and lunch. Now, this might be how is this spiritual? I don't know if it's spiritual, but let me tie it all in because I think it's really an incredible thing that you can do. Put some real thought into this. Can you create a breakfast, lunch, and snack plan that you're willing to do every day, at least every day for a week or every day for a month? By pre-deciding and pre-planning, you can eat better. You can eat food of a higher quality and more nutritional value at a cheaper cost while saving yourself about 28 decisions a week because you got 7 days of breakfast and lunch and snacks. So you can save yourself 28 to 35 decisions, 40 decisions by pre-planning and pre-deciding. Something you might consider, I actually use ChatGPT to start working through the caloric values, the vitamins, minerals, proteins, and I kind of came up with what feels like for me, this is food that's much better in quality, that I can spend about 2 hours prepping on Sundays. And then within 5 to 7 minutes of breakfast, of lunch, I can quickly reheat it or prepare it and have, a really good, for me, like 1,500 calories from breakfast through my snack time. And even if I didn't eat the rest of the day, I've filled myself with nutrients. I've filled myself with good stuff. It tastes good. And it may seem a little bit boring. Still, I'm going to eat whatever dinner we have. But that pre-decision has really eliminated a lot of stress, and I feel better as the day goes on. So it's one of those compound things that will affect your health, your energy levels, your budget, your stress level in a very positive way. Next, pre-decide your days and time to be a part of the church. Now, notice I didn't say your time to go to church because it's not like going to the movies. You're a part of the body of Christ and you need to be a member of the family. So not just you go there, you're a part of it. Now, if you're making your church decision on Saturday night or on Sunday morning, then let me be honest, Jesus may be your savior, but something else is Lord of your life. You're not just honoring God with your choice. You're training yourself. You're training your family. You're training your children on what are the most internally important things in your life. Now, between Sundays and Wednesdays in my family, and this is not simply because I'm a pastor, this was our pattern when I wasn't serving as a pastor, we spend about 6 hours a week at our church. There's about 3 hours on Sundays and about 3 hours on Wednesdays for us. And let me tell you, it has been transformative for us. And my children, they actually want to go to church early. They want to stay late because they have friendships. They have connectedness. They love not the church building. They love being with the church. As a side benefit, this also saves us thousands of dollars on travel ball leagues because they all want to play on Sunday. But we've already pre-decided that Sunday is the time that we are gathering with the church. And that is a long-term compound interest benefit and a lesson that we're teaching ourselves. We're honoring Jesus. We're worshiping. We're teaching our kids. So just pre-decide that. Sundays, decide just as a regular course of life, how much time you are going to be with the church, how you're going to be involved. Stop making it a Saturday night or a Sunday morning decision. Because again, if you're making it a Saturday night or Sunday morning decision on a regular basis, Jesus may be your savior, but he's not your Lord. Something else is ruling your life, and that's a problem. Next, a couple ones for your family. Pre-decide your date nights. Make it your goal to have a date every week with your spouse. Decide a regular night of the week that you block off for it. It doesn't have to be expensive. You can be completely broke and have a great date with your spouse. You just got to be creative. Fortunately, there's the internet to give you all kinds of ideas on free dates. You can trade off babysitting with somebody if you need. If you can't escape, you have nobody to watch your kids, you can still create a date time in your home. Let your kids watch a movie. I don't care what you let them do, as long as it's moral and ethical and legal and safe. You get that regular blocked time with your spouse. And let me tell you something, there's always going to be competing with it. And by pre-deciding, you're communicating with your spouse that your relationship with them is more important than everything in the world. So if you aim for every week, you may hit every week, you may hit twice a month, but if you don't have it blocked in, you're going to, it's just crazy to me how many spouses I talk to that don't have a regular designated date time with their spouse. And I don't care whether you call it a date time or not, but it needs to be intentional. It needs to be together. And it's got to be something more than just mindlessly watching a movie. You want to engage and connect with one another. And as the seasons of life change, you have to change the day of the week, the time. My wife and I are getting some of ours, like we have a night of the week, but our kids are in sports. There's different things happening. So sometimes we're able to do a lunch date instead, but we have a blocked time, and that's been really helpful. Number 6, pre-decide family dinner nights. Again, you may have to be flexible as the seasons of life change, but family dinner night is one of the things that, as they research and study, creates more stability, deeper connection, healthier long-term outcomes for every member of the family, especially your children. And it can be incredibly missional. It doesn't just have to be the cloister of your family. It can be extended family. It can be a time when your kids' friends come, or your friends come, and then decide what are the routines and rhythms that you guys are going to do. We do roses and thorns, highs and lows around the table. And what's really cool is we had a young lady that lived in our house for a while when she was like 4th grade. And we just got to spend time with her. And she brought her boyfriend over. She's over 18 now. And she brought her boyfriend over. And as we're sitting around the table, she asked us, she's like, wait, aren't we going to do highs and lows? And it was like, oh man, this meant something to this little girl. And she was ready to share her highs and lows. And it was so special. That's just one of our regular things around the table at our family dinner nights, because it allows everybody to check in. So pre-decide what are going to be the family dinner nights. 52, one a week is 52 a year. That's 1,000 dinner nights that you get with your kids before they leave your house. If you get 2 a week, then that's 2,000. That's incredible investment in your kids. And the whole world's going to be trying to fight to take that time. So you want to stay connected. And then lastly, pre-decide to be proportionally generous. I think this is a huge, huge area of life. Pre-decide to be proportionally generous. As the Lord has blessed you, be proportionally generous to those around you. We're New Testament Christians. We're not under the law of the tithe, but we are under the law of love. And the law of love in Christ commands us to be radically, joyfully generous, as Jesus has given us everything. So we've decided in our house that generosity is a no-brainer. We give a tithe to support our local church. And that tithe actually, we have it automated to come out of my paycheck before I even see it. That way I never miss it. I never miss the giving, and I never miss it in my bank account because it's regular. And we are supporting the work of our local church that's investing in my family and investing in reaching our community. In addition to that, we have some missions ventures that we love, and we support that on top of our tithe to the local church because God has blessed me abundantly and I want to be abundantly generous. What's the result of this? Well, by making it regular and habitual and automatic, I never miss the giving and I don't miss the money because it's already going out. And God has lavished us with relationships and opportunities and rich meaning in our life. Excuse me. When we're generous with our money, it becomes easier to be generous with our time, with our words, with our service, with all of these other areas of life. And generosity frees me from my stuff so that it's no longer my stuff. It's the Lord's, and I'm just a steward of it. So these are 7 different areas. I'm going to put all of them in the show notes just so you can go back and review them. I highly encourage you, check out the discussion questions that I've given to go along with this. You can get those just by looking in the show notes, or I put them in my Things for Thursday email that you can get by texting the word THINGS, THINGS, to 66866. And as you think about whether this is worth the effort or not, I want you to remember Daniel. You know, at some point in your life, you're going to be confronted with a major test of life and faith. And by pre-deciding right now and instilling these habits in your life, that choice in your crisis of faith is going to be much more automatic and much more God-honoring. And remember that just like Daniel, it may be costly in the short term, but God will absolutely reward you in the long term. So hope this has been helpful to you. If so, please share it with a friend. Spend some time mulling over it and discussing. Don't just listen to it, but spend some time applying it. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of this. And I'll see you next month with another really helpful topic to equip you in your parenting marathon. God bless you. Thanks for this time we've had together.